This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Here's your host, Brandon Contes.
Alrighty, welcome to episode 86 of the Awful Announcing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Contes, and this week we are joined by a former Super Bowl MVP, a former lead game analyst and studio analyst for CBS. He is the co-host of Sims Complete, Phil Simms. Phil, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. The MVP of Super Bowl 21. It is now Super Bowl 59. Does it feel like it's been that long?
No, it doesn't. But the introduction, there were a lot of formers in that. You know what I'm saying? Former this, former that. Is he still alive? Yes. But yeah, it's amazing. I look at it and go, oh my gosh, it's been that long. It's really, man, time goes fast. You hear that all the time, Brandon, but it's real. And the older I get, the faster it goes. My wife and I look at each other every time and go, like, it's February already? What the hell happened to January? But hey, I'm excited for the Super Bowl just like everybody else. I love it. No obligations. So I'm going to be a fan big time and just yell at the TV a lot.
It's been a long time, but your completion percentage record still stands, correct?
It does, yes, yes. I never cared about it. And other people, oh, you don't want anybody to break that. I go, never thought of it. But I think as I get older, I'm going, yeah, okay, let's let it hang on for a few more years. I don't think it can be broken by these two quarterbacks this week just because they're going against good defenses.
Yeah.
So that means a few throwaways, some incompletions, great coverage, that kind of stuff should happen, but you never know.
And then I think it was 8 Super Bowls that you called in the booth between the NBC and CBS. I should have looked this up, but what was the first one? Was it Steelers Cowboys the first one?
It was, yes. It was Steelers Cowboys out in Arizona. So yeah, it's really kind of strange to think back to that and think about what I really knew. And being an analyst on TV just threw me in there. We went, and I was pretty quiet. I had Paul Maguire there with me. So when there's dead air, Paul took care of it. That's for sure. A lot of fun to work with him, and of course Dick Enberg at the same time.
How different did it feel calling a Super Bowl versus a regular season game?
I think it was not a big difference, especially then. I didn't think of it as a big difference. And I think what happens in all things, especially like Super Bowls, more and more people want to stick their finger in there and get their 2 cents in, or whatever you want to call it. So that happens. That's the biggest difference, I would think. During the regular season, yeah, just go. But in playoffs, and especially the bigger the playoff game and the closer you got to the Super Bowl, the more that everybody wants to make sure that they're covered and get their points into you. So that's all good, though.
Were there nerves when you started out as a broadcaster?
Maybe a little. I was never nervous as a player. I always laugh. I expected some failure. So it's no, there. I don't remember doing a game and being nervous like that.
Yeah.
I think every once in a while a situation would come up and you go, back then we didn't have, most of those games and Super Bowl, I didn't have an official sitting in the booth with us to take it or to talk about the plays. Is this right? Was it this? All this, which they have now, and knowing the rules. Brandon, that was the biggest thing. The pressure to know so many rules. There wasn't a week that went by early in my career, or for most of it, where I was calling a league head official in New York. How about this? How about that? I read it in the book. It sounds different. And I was some pain in the rear end, but that was probably the hardest thing about announcing, is just worrying about special situations, what comes up, what's the rule, and be able to, get it out there to the fans.
So what was it? Was it better when you were starting out to have Paul Maguire there, to have that a third person in the booth, or?
Oh yeah, not even close. Yeah, I would sit there and listen to him go, "Oh, that's how you do that," So yeah, it taught. I learned a lot from Dick Enberg and Paul Maguire, and it helped me in the transition once I started working with Greg Gumbel.
So you called 8 Super Bowls. Tom Brady is now preparing to call his first one. Is there advice that you would give Tom or anybody that's preparing to call their first Super Bowl?
Well, he knows just I was always a big believer in this. What's the big theme of the game? In other words, I'd love that part. We first come on and talk about the game, and here's what we expect. And what was great about it, you had so much information from studying all week, but from the players and coaches. I had a lot of good relationships with, of course, quarterbacks, but especially head coaches. And honestly, Brandon, they tell me about everything.
Yeah.
I could piece it all together and almost declare who I thought was going to win the game in that opening thing. So I will say this too. I had a sign. I can't tell you what the sign said because it had some curse words in it. But no announcer's ever been accused of not talking enough. Okay. So my sign said something to that, like, shut up. And I had it right above my telestrator. And people would come in and they'd see it and they go, oh, I go, yeah. I go, hey, man, it's just what I think. I don't want to over talk. And hopefully I can be succinct and all that. And there were times it worked great. And other times I'd get done. I go, damn, couldn't talk today. What the hell's wrong with me? No, I miss it at times. I really do.
Yeah.
Don't get to travel. I think if I did games now, I would be much clearer and simple. And I sure wouldn't I hate the jargon. Well, the quarterback got out of the pocket, and as he rode out, he kept his eyes down the field. Well, where in the hell is he supposed to keep them? Going to look at the ground? I love all that stuff. Hey, you want to get the best athletes in space and give them the ball. Oh, wow. You mean, okay. Stuck his foot in the ground. I can go on. I got like 50 of them.
Yeah. There's no need for those just kind of filler phrases and words.
How about this one? Got to stay ahead of the chains. I mean, hell, I played 15 years, and what does that mean? Somebody explain it to me. I just want to hear the explanation. So it's hey, you're laughing because all these things are said all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And it still bothers me.
Have you listened to Tom much this season?
Probably. It seems like as the year went along, I had a chance to listen to him more, and I can tell a difference.
Yeah,
and you can hear it in his voice. He's more relaxed and makes a lot of good points, of course, because he played for one of the greatest coaches in history. But he was a great player, and he can put it all together. And every once in a while, he'll say some things and go, "Wow, that was really pretty good." And what makes it good, even to me, that was really simple, concise, all that. And I haven't heard another announcer say things like that. So I think it's been a good success for him, for sure. And I would think as the year went along, Brandon, he started liking it more and more. He like anything, he's a perfectionist. He learned, and it worked out well for him.
Well, and I'm sure as he gets more comfortable, it becomes easier to like it a little bit more as well.
Absolutely. And too, I used to do it with Greg Gumbel more. I just, every once in a while, I just had to take a shot. You know what I mean? He'd do something. We would just laugh about and try to have a little fun, but not trying to have fun, just whatever's natural do. And I hear that with him and between him and Kevin Burkhardt, just that it's going pretty well.
Does preparing to call a game replicate at all preparing to play in a game as a quarterback?
Yes, it does. It does. Maybe it's hard. I think it's harder because you're trying to cover all the bases and schemes that teams and coaches run, the players, who's playing well, really well, who is everybody picking on? And you go, wait, I'm watching it all. That what they're saying out there, that's not true. And so it's great to correct, I think, people who misspeak or during the week about players and how they're playing. And then when you study it all and put it together, it was definitely more, for me, it was more work getting ready for games than it was as an announcer than it was as a player.
A lot has been made about the NFL restrictions put on Brady and not letting him take part in production meetings because he's a minority owner of the Raiders. Having done the job yourself, how important are those production meetings?
Well, I loved them. I loved it more with the coaches than I did the players, just because the coaches would give you something that was real and meant a lot to the game. And a lot of times you're just trying to look for information that validates what you already think. But a lot of the players were really good quarterbacks, of course. always very good. Some of them would just, I mean, I can say this now. I mean, Peyton Manning would come in and go, so Phil, well, third down, rah, rah, rah. And, 25 minutes later, I go, I have 9 pages of notes. I go, man, I can't get all this in. But, so there were certain players and coaches that would just come in and go right to the point and basically tell you everything they want to do in the game and what scares them and all that. So I forgot your original question, Brandon. What was it?
How important are those production meetings? Because Tom Brady can't take part in them. So just for
Yeah.
an analyst.
But in this new day and age, he's got the computer like this right now. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He can Zoom people and talk and do all that, I guess. But with all the information that's out there with the analytics, we get all the video on my computer. I was just watching college football players before you and I went on the air. And so there's so much at your fingertips that you can be every bit as prepared or over prepared if you want to be for these games that you're about to do.
How comfortable were you as a player talking and giving game plans to analysts and broadcasters?
As my career went along, I got more and more comfortable with it. Like John Madden did so many games of ours there for years. And I remember Bill Parcells once said, he goes, Sims, don't worry, tell him whatever you want. And I went, okay, because he basically said, you can trust them. And I would get on the board with John Madden and Pat Summerall and draw up certain plays that I thought were going to be huge keys to us winning the game. And it was a lot of fun. And John Madden, if I ever watched the TV copy that week, that there he would be trying to describe what I had told him. I'm not going to say he did it perfectly, but he was close. And it was really interesting. And we had great conversations. But I kind of did that, would have done it just for about any announcers that came. I was pretty open and free, telling them what I thought was good news for them.
It does seem kind of crazy just because like coaches can be so coy sometimes in press conferences with reporters and the media. And yet here they are willing to kind of share everything a couple nights before a game.
Well, here's the difference. It would be my thought. So in other words, the coaches would tell me, but it wasn't like, hey, he told me that this player stinks and we're going to take advantage of him.
Yeah.
I would turn it into my information.
Yeah.
Because that's what they wanted. So, yeah, I mean, listen, you know how it is in this day and age, and it keeps building. You can say the smallest thing and not maybe put it out there the right way, and it becomes a huge story.
Yeah.
So I know
are teams just as willing to talk to broadcasters in those production meetings right around the Super Bowl? Like, do players and coaches start to get a little bit more secretive, or they're still comfortable opening up for these Super Bowl broadcasts?
Yeah, they were always comfortable. And listen, Bill Cowher came in the first Super Bowl I was at out in Arizona against the Cowboys, and he told us everything about the onside kick.
Yeah,
and he went through the whole look at this guy. He's going to retreat this and that, and of course NBC had like 9,000 cameras on it, being ready for it. And he basically told us when he was going to use it in the game. And all that came true. It was a huge play in the game. Probably should have turned it around where they should have won the game. But, a couple of errors by Pittsburgh's offense, it cost them that Super Bowl.
Yeah. Amazing. What about Tom doing both jobs? Like, do you think that he can maintain being an involved owner of the Raiders and calling games for Fox, or should he be able to do both? Is it a conflict of interest?
Well, that's a good question. I would listen. There's no way you can do both of them and do a great job in both. How involved is he going to be with the Raiders? Man, are you going to be in that office every day, listening, hearing about who they want to draft, what player we want to get in free agent, how we want to build a team, and all that. So I don't know where that role really is, Brandon. I kind of follow it, but I don't think you can do both at the highest level that you want. And I don't know what excites him more. Man, I never got the chance. I shouldn't say that. I did have chances. I didn't take advantage of it, of being part of organizations in many different ways, but I never did it. And because I knew if I did that, it was all consuming.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you can do both and be great at both at the same time.
Yeah. What was the best Super Bowl that you ever called?
Oh, man.
The most exciting game.
Brandon, I'm telling you, I have a hard time remembering which ones I did. I would say the kind of messed it up too. Carolina Panthers and New England Patriots down in Houston. And a couple things. I should have complained about the field more in that game because the field was rock hard. Guys were slipping. It was crazy near the sidelines. That's one thing. And the kickoff by the Carolina Panthers, they kicked it and kicked it out of bounds, which was a huge play. And I should have made a big thing on that and didn't do it. So that bothered me. And of course, when it happened, I went, wow, Brady completes one or two passes. They're in field goal range with at the time, the greatest field goal kicker in history. So that would have probably been the most exciting, would have been a great finish. There was stuff there for me to what's the word for it, to take advantage of it and really, hey, wow. And didn't do it. So I don't know what to say except hell. I threw a lot of interceptions, so I made mistakes in doing games too.
So are those mistakes that are pointed out to you after, or like, do you rewatch the broadcast, or it's just something that you kind of thought of after the game? Like, oh, I should have made it bigger.
Once a couple plays happened, I went, oh man, I knew right away
that you missed the opportunity.
Yeah, I missed the opportunity to be ahead of it, which they always say. And when I do like now, that's why I would almost love to go back and just I would do a high school game maybe, and just kind of be a little more free flowing and really relaxed and be really simple and just have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
That would be the way I'd do it now. And of course, now I just do it all with things like this, podcasts, speaking, doing interviews, man. When I get done, I have a lot of issues. I just say, man, I like trying to let me rephrase that. I like telling the truth. And I do work hard at it because I want to know for sure. I don't tell a quarterback or say things about a quarterback unless I really know. And I think that's my job. My job is to be truthful to the players and coaches of the NFL because the fans, whatever they hear or read is what they believe. And I kind of take it. I don't mean to sound like I'm something special, but I take it upon myself to try to tell the fans the truth.
Sure.
And don't get caught up. Well, he threw one interception today but he threw 4 touchdowns, but that intercept. Oh, shut up. That's what I feel. I mean, this quarterback thing is driving me crazy. You can play great, but you miss a pass somewhere. Well, if he'd hit that pass and, it's crazy. Oh, if you throw an interception, well, he turned the ball over. My God. I mean, Bill Parcells once told me as I was walking out of the locker room in 1984, my career was on the line and his was too. He's outside the doors. We come out of the locker room and he goes, hey, Sims. And I go, hey, wow, I never saw him do this. He goes, if you don't throw at least 2 interceptions today, you're not taking enough chances. So go get it. And well, I said, Coach, I can take care of that interception thing for you. That's pretty easy. But it was his way of relaxing you. And he'd always would say this to all players. It's not a game of perfection. Why do we expect perfection? That's a terrible way to play because it's, so careful. There's quarterbacks, they're so careful. Well, they don't turn the ball over. Yeah, but they never make any plays either because they're too careful. So there's always you got to know where that limit is. And the closer you get to that edge, the greater you are as a player.
So do you think quarterbacks are too careful today and concerned about throwing interceptions? Is that because they're concerned about their stats? Or is it because they're concerned about media reaction? Or is that just the way they're coached now?
Oh, they're coached that way. We want to score 35 points, but don't turn it over.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. We can't turn it over. And I would say this is, I think quarterbacks do during the game now more than ever are looking at the scoreboard, looking at their stats, seeing where they stand. And, because the teams, the coaches to a degree, but of course the fans and the media, that's all they judge on. Look at his stats. And, I'm not exaggerating when I say this either. I've heard it many times. Oh, he threw for 325, this and that. He threw 4 touchdowns. He threw and we focus on just that, which I'm not being petty because I was an ex-quarterback. It's just, let's look at the grand scheme and see what what really caused you to lose the game. Can we ever just once go, well, they got no pass pressure. The defensive line, they were the problem. When's the last time you heard that, Brandon? Never. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's just more to it. But I understand everybody knows the coach and quarterback. So we're going to focus on the coach's decisions and the quarterback's stats as much as or more than anything else in the game.
Yeah, so I guess along the same lines of being concerned about individual stats, I'm sure you heard last week Cam Newton say that he would not trade his MVP for a Super Bowl ring. So I'll ask you the opposite question. I think I know what the answer is already, but would you trade your Super Bowl ring for a league MVP?
Of course not. No. And I'll even do it to this point. Fans know Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Nobody could tell you who won the MVP in the NFL from 3 years ago. I have no clue. I don't know. Tell me the Super Bowl. Who's in it? Oh yeah, so and so's the MVP. So I listen. If I was on the other side, maybe I'd have a different take on it. I understand that from Cam Newton in that respect. He had a pretty damn good career. Should have been better. And all that. I did that game against the Denver Broncos. That was a really good defense. But no, I want the Super Bowl. I want that trophy. I want the ring, all those things. You don't get a trophy and a ring for being the MVP.
Yeah. I was surprised to hear Cam Newton say that. I think a lot of people were. You called the last Super Bowl that was in New Orleans, the Ravens 49ers
Right.
Super Bowl. What was your initial reaction? That was the power outage, obviously. What was your initial reaction when that power outage happened?
I would say I was borderline scared.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, if it stays like this, how are we going to get out of here or what? What's going on? And it was scary. And I don't know how long it lasted. I forgot.
I think it was a little over 30. The break was over 30 minutes. I don't know exactly when the lights started coming on, but the break was over 30 minutes.
Yeah. That was kind of my first reaction, and just sitting there going, what the hell are we going to do? And what's going on or whatever. It turned out to be a really good game. I think what I remember most about that game, doing a production meeting, Jim Harbaugh comes in. We've already talked to John. Jim Harbaugh comes in and we shake hands. He sits down. He looks at me. He goes, I listened to a lot of games you did with John. Did he really tell you all that stuff that you talk about? And I go, well, what do you think? I made it up on the air that I talked to? And he goes, I just can't believe he tells you all this stuff. Well, I'm not going out and telling the world. I'm only telling you once it happens on the field. But it was so interesting, that he just couldn't get over. His brother opened up to us so much and told us a lot of stuff about the game that we literally talk about sometimes, me and Jim Nance. So that was Jim Harbaugh. That's him as a player and a coach in a nutshell right there, buttoned up and tight.
So during the power outage, how long, like you're sitting there, everything goes out, about how long does it take before you start getting some answers as far as what's going on? Like, are you guys, does the power go out and somebody is immediately telling you guys what's happening, or are you kind of just sitting there in the dark for a couple minutes, just not knowing what's up with like everybody else?
Yep. Didn't know, sitting there in the dark, just waiting, talking to people in the booth that are all up in there and everything like that. But yeah, the communication was not great. And I don't think there was any to me. So yeah, it's a Super Bowl. We got two good teams. The game's exciting. And there we are in a blackout. So,
do you know if were there any immediate contingencies being discussed? Like, or
not
like
that I know of.
Yeah, because I'm just like, are they concerned that they're not going to be able to get the power back on, or were they going to potentially have to postpone the game? Like, I just curious if all those things were up in the air at that point.
Yeah, it was all up in the air. I didn't hear anything. I don't, listen, Brandon, there's one thing about age. I start to forget some things. So if I was telling you things in the booth that I don't remember, I just remember us all talking between each other and just couldn't believe it happened. Really, just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of find out maybe after, well, it was after the game, of course, that they were worried about an issue like that. Am I right or wrong? If I remember right, they were like,
I don't remember. I'm not sure.
during the week they had something happen where it shut, and they went. They thought they had it fixed, but apparently not.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Something did happen during the week. I feel pretty safe in saying this Sunday they'll have about 3 different ways to back it up.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, definitely not going to allow that to happen again.
Absolutely.
It was at that time it was a blowout. I think it was 28-6 the score when the power went out. When the power comes back on, do you remember, were you able to just kind of jump right in and start calling the game again? Like, or was it hard to refocus at that point?
No, it was strange. I'm not going to say it was easy. But 28-6, I don't think it ever got to that.
No, maybe 21-6. It was definitely, it may be 21-6.
Yeah, maybe it's 21. I haven't. Yeah, once we get done with this, I'll probably look it up on my computer just to see what Baltimore came back from.
Yeah,
and so, San Francisco. I would say I remember just working for the game and all that. When I went and watched them practice, I go, "This is the greatest looking team I've ever seen." I mean, everybody out there was prototype. That's one of the things I remember about the game. Going, "Oh my gosh, no wonder they're in this game."
yeah.
Everybody they got is a monster. I mean, they were loaded with this ideal talent. And, Colin Kaepernick was the guy that kind of put it over the top too. With Greg Roman, Colin Kaepernick caught everybody by surprise, and it took the offseason before people could figure out what they wanted to do against it. And I put a lot of time that offseason into the quarterback give and go. Hell, I was calling college coaches, teach me a little more as whatever. And then, of course, it worked for a while. Like everything, the NFL adapts to just about everything. So it didn't take as long as I thought it would for the NFL to adapt to it.
Sure. I know you mentioned earlier working with Greg Gumbel, who passed away a little over a month ago. How was your time working with Greg?
It was awesome. He was fun to be around. He was a big TV watcher. So for the couple days that we'd all be together working on the game and interviewing when there's downtime, he would recite lines from all the comedy shows on air. It was unbelievable. I mean, of course, he was a genius anyway, but I could say anything to him. You couldn't rattle him. He didn't care. We were doing a game in Kansas City, and right before kickoff, I'm not going to tell you exactly how I delivered it, but I kind of spiced it up a little. I said, "Greg, there's so many good things that I need to get out in front of this game that we're going to rely on as we go. So you can't talk." And he goes, "Okay, just let me know when you want me to talk." And he was serious. He didn't care. He didn't care. He just said, "Well, when you get it done, just kind of give me a signal and I'll get in there." And, we had so much fun. We really did. He got out of the car. We were at the game that day. As he got out of the car, of course, I brought it up on the air too. Armin Katayan's in there, me, Greg Gumbel. So the door opens, and there were 4 older ladies right outside the door as we were getting out. One of the ladies goes, "Oh my gosh, there's George Clooney and Bryant Gumbel." George Clooney was Armin Katayan, which he did kind of look like him back then, and everything. Oh my gosh, we laughed. I don't think Greg wanted me to bring it up on the air. I said, "Man, it's too good. I got to bring it up. We got to talk about this." So let's throw it down to George Clooney sideline. So we had a lot of fun with it, but it was true. And, it was just, man, that kind of stuff. I just remember all those things that were a little different.
Yeah.
And, fun spending so much time together, Brandon, which it is. It's a lot of time together during a year. And Greg was great to be with.
Did you have a favorite broadcast partner, somebody that maybe you felt like the instant chemistry with?
Yeah, I'll never answer that, just because I have enough issues. I don't need to get any more fights going on in my life.
Sure.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It is. Like I said, I think as I got older and everything like that, I would have more fun with it.
Yeah.
I did worry a lot about how I presented the game. And was I being truthful to the players and coaches? That would be, sometimes I would say something and I'd be in the car going to the airport and I go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that about this guy." It was so untrue when it came out of my mouth. I go, I knew better, and that would really bother me. So it was a great job, though. Great job.
How was working with Jim Nantz?
It was great. It was good. It was different than Greg. Jim was very, very interested in finding out more than just the football from the guys, which was a lot of fun to hear. Sometimes he would get stuff out, and I go, "Oh my gosh, man, that's we got to use that. You got to use that right away." That was really great stuff to hear from the player or a coach or whatever. So Jim was a very good partner. I don't know how many years we worked together. Time goes quick, but it worked out pretty well for the large part of it.
Did you prefer calling games versus working in the studio?
I would prefer calling games.
Yeah.
Yes. It's harder. What's hard about the studio is this. Study all week, cover the league, and go, man, I got 2 really good ideas that I want to hit. Yeah, not time. We don't have the time. Can't do it. We need to cover this team or this. We got this game on CBS. Talk about that. And, it was, you're doing the games, you can kind of take your time and talk about something for 2 or 3 plays.
Right.
Well, you're in a studio, that doesn't happen. And you got 20 seconds or 25 seconds to make a point about a game. And so it's not easy. You speak a different language than you would normally.
Yeah.
You want to be a little more that kind of thing, just hit the points. I took great pride in it, knowing what I was talking about, that I'd studied, and I never made anything up. Not saying it was great TV, but that's what I believed in doing. And it had some good years at CBS for sure.
But you, at least in the studio, you get when you do get to talk about something, you get a little bit more time to talk about it. Like, is that a benefit? Whereas during the game, you only have a few seconds before you jump right back into the next play.
Yeah, but you can stay with the play before, the thought before, whatever. No, the getting a great point across was much easier doing games than it was in the studio. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. So, that's what you miss. But that's what hey, when in doubt, if I didn't have anything to say, I made fun of Boomer. That was always an out. Oh, come on, don't make fun of Boomer all the time. Well, he's there, and I'm looking at him. I can't help it.
What was the chemistry like with Boomer, James Brown, Nate, and Bill Cowher?
Yeah, it was all good. Our best work was during commercials, or whenever we were, because we would just literally say what we wanted to, and we would laugh hysterically a lot of times just about, what we had just done. Here's what I really wanted to say, like I always say, is, you got to spice those things up. But yeah, it was good. And it was good to, everybody had a different personality, of course. But for me, it was always to pick on Boomer, always. He tried to pick on me too. He tried. He's just not very good at it.
Well, and you still get to do it every week going on with Boomer and Gio on WFAN.
Yeah, but it's good.
Not the same through the phone.
Well, no, it's fine. But remember, in the studio, he's doing things that we see, and you can't go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this in somewhere today. And and I got reprimanded a few times for, you can't always pick on Boomer. Why not? He loves it. Boomer loves it, Brandon. He loves it when you pick on him, because, as I've said many times,
well, maybe he loves it when you pick on him.
Yeah, no, he likes it when anybody does, if and it's all in fun. But Boomer talks about himself, a lot to me, and then when he gets done, he goes, "Hey, enough about me, Phil. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me?" And I mean, that's just my thing I always say about him. But it was a lot of fun, and of course, even on the radio, and I do some other things with him too. I did a function with him about 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was 3 of us: Gio, his partner, me, and Boomer. And oh my gosh, I answered questions for 30 minutes from the audience at one of their charities, and I'm going to say 27 of those minutes it was negative towards Boomer. And he goes, he's funny. He goes with it. He doesn't care. That's what makes it so great. And then he picks on me. He says, "Oh, look at you. You're stiff. You're this. He's got all these things he's repeated 1,000 times. It's fun. I do. I love it that way. I do. And that's probably what's good about doing this with you, doing a podcast with my son during the week. I do interviews and, get a lot of things off my chest. So I really like it. It's pretty good. It's a pretty cool job.
When you went from the booth to the studio, were you looking for a change at all, or were you completely surprised that you were?
Oh, no, I wasn't surprised, Brandon. I'll leave it at that. I wasn't surprised at all. And I knew it was coming. And just like leaving CBS, the studio show, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't ask anybody. I'm not a super smart guy, but I'm smart enough to know what the hell's going on and know that, okay, this is probably it. So that's the way it is.
What do you think of Tony Romo as an analyst?
What do you want me to say? There's good for him. I'd listen. I think he does a good job, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm not into he followed me, and I'm not into judging him or talking about what I think he does right or wrong.
Yeah. Well, so like I look at the Greg Olsen situation with him getting replaced by Brady, and Greg is pretty vocal about every interview he does. He says he wants the job back, and he wants to be in a lead analyst, whether that's with Fox or somebody else. And he watches Tom Brady as an analyst, and he sits there thinking about what he would do differently. So I'm curious if you had a similar mindset to that.
Well, no, I mean, probably not, just because.
You certainly didn't do that kind of the media tour that Greg Olsen has done, in terms of saying that he wants his job back. But
no, I've never done that. I'm telling you now, if somebody called me and they have 7 games on their docket, we want to do the 7th game, I would think about it for about 1 second. I said, I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll do it just for the fun of it, man. And it would be, I would use it more as an avenue now than I did when I was doing it, much more to be broader scoped and probably complain a little more about a lot of things in the right way.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you already know, as you and I don't know if we did it on air, we were laughing that I wouldn't use all those great sayings. Hey, he high pointed the ball. Great job. What's high point? Is there a point of the ball? Late flag. There's no damn late flags. The guy gets it caught in his pocket. He's like, oh, dang it. Whatever. So I would have some fun with that. I forgot what your question was because I get on tangents. What was it again about?
Just kind of Greg Olsen. Yeah.
Good for him. I don't blame him at all. I'm on his side. Would I have done that? I would never have the courage to do that.
Okay.
And that's just how I was raised. Not raised. I don't want to. This is not negative. My dad, all my brothers, whatever, and my coaches, just do your thing or whatever. But yeah, I think he's letting it out there that, well, of course he is, that he wants to be the number one somewhere. Problem is, there's just not many of those spots out there to get.
Yeah.
People that get them want to hold them forever. So,
did you ever try to go to a different network, or were you were content going to the studio after you left the booth?
Well, nobody was going to hire me after CBS let me go. I don't have an ego to think that, oh yeah, they're all waiting for me and now they'll come and get me. No, because all the other lead analysts were locked in. I don't know who all was in at the time. Probably John Gruden at ESPN. Maybe, I'm not sure. Who was doing number 1 games there? It could have been, well, no, I'm trying to think who would be out there.
It was probably Gruden at ESPN at that time. That was before he went back to the Raiders.
Chris Collinsworth at NBC, Troy Aikman
and Fox. Aikman and Fox, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think they were going to dump any of those guys to try to bring me in. I knew that. So like I said, I wasn't shocked about being let go either time.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming and I kept it quiet. And I've really never talked about either one in a certain way since I was let go, so it's not, I didn't even get emotional about it. So it's like I said, when you know what's coming, all right, it softens the blow.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, history behind all these things and why, and I know all the answers, but I keep them to myself.
Are you surprised by the contracts that lead analysts get now?
Yes. Surprise is not the word. Jealousy is the word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But it might not have happened if I was in there, because I was never going to say, I need this much money. It was always a fight to get another $5. So not millions and millions. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that they all get these tens of millions of dollars of contracts,
if that's not motivation to keep your job, what is?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boy, oh boy. So, well, good for them.
What was your comfort level when you were in the booth of being critical of the referees?
I don't remember really being real critical of them. That's like a point that I never look back and go, oh, that was a great moment in my life when I criticized them for a stupid call. You know what I mean? So, but I would have, I had, I'm not going to tell you the fan base, but once I was doing a game and there was a lot of calls that were really close, and you just kind of sit there and you give an opinion on what it's going to be. It's going to be for this team or that team. You give the opinion. And of course, the fans when you say it's going to be this team instead of the other one, the other team is going, he's rooting for the other team. He's cheating us. And yeah, like, oh, the referees are listening to what we're saying in the booth. They're going to make the decision on that. I mean, that drives me crazy. It does. But that was probably the biggest negativity of all.
Yeah.
Oh, Sims was
fans
for the team today. Hey, look, let me tell you the truth. I don't care who wins, and I really mean that. I don't care. I hope the game is really entertaining, fun to do, a lot to talk about. That's how I look at it, so.
But does the NFL have an officiating issue right now, or is that a narrative that's kind of overblown?
Oh, that's a good question. Usually I'd say, oh, no, it's all great. And I saw all the interviews with the Chiefs, or some of them, and talking about the officials and all that. But yeah, there's no doubt. I thought there were a couple. I thought the Josh Allen quarterback sneak, I think there's not even a question. I had no doubt and watched it. And I've sat here with my face next to it. Let me look. I said, God, he made it. And, but it didn't go their way. Calls do go against you in the NFL. But man, you hate to see one late in the game of a championship game go against you. So that was my opinion of it too.
Are you in favor of more instant replay?
God, no.
Would you get rid of replay, or leave it the way it is?
Yeah, I'm not big, and let's make a lot of changes into the officiating, the replay, and all that. I think what's happened, the calls on the field by the officials, and then at the NFL looking from above or whatever you want to, wherever they are, if they can make a quick change because it's blatantly wrong, then they can do it. I like the system the way it is. Maybe if you want to give coaches more challenges, things like that, that wouldn't bother me either. And I'm kind of like this. Let's keep the game going. So by and large, let's be honest, the officials do a great job. Gene Steratore once told me something. He works at CBS, and he's the official they built to. He said, Phil, it's like when I go to an NBA basketball game, you sit under the basket, which I had done a few times. And when a foul is called, you go, oh, sitting here in person and being close to it, it's evident. It's an easy call, of course, but you're home and it's not in 3D. You're at home going, oh, that was a terrible call. Nobody got touched. And it's the same thing on the field. It happens so fast and everything. But the fact that you're there in real life and real time and all that, you can make a much better decision than somebody just watching TV.
Yeah.
And he also told me this. He says, you can be doing major college football, Alabama against Georgia. It's nothing compared to an NFL game.
Yeah.
He goes, when you get on that field in an NFL game for the first time, you're in shock. You can't get over how big and fast everything is. But the other thing that he said, it's how clear the officials can see it because they're there. TV can't make it lifelike.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's such a word, but I make them up.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Lifelike's
It
a word.
made sense. And you know what it did? It changed my opinion about calls by officials, referees, whatever. That they have a view that you cannot duplicate with TV. I don't care how many cameras you have. That answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Pretty good one, right? Yeah.
It was great. Great job. Great analysis.
Thank you so much. I'm practicing again for my new job.
What would Patrick Mahomes winning the Super Bowl this weekend, his third in a row, what does that do for his legacy?
How can it get bigger? But if he wins, I mean, the race is on. It'll be the first talking point to every damn show on Monday.
Yeah.
And it'll be the only talking point the whole offseason. Who's going to be able to dethrone the Chiefs? So, and rightly so. I mean, boy, just can't imagine what it's like to be in so many Super Bowls so early in his career, but trying to win 3 in a row. My gosh, I was ready to retire after I won 1. Let's go. That's it. I don't want to mess with it anymore, just because it's not for them, but for, me, it was harder. It was just, I'm not Patrick Mahomes. So the work and the tension and all that other stuff, I mean, it's real. I got it. It's real. Come home from a bad game as a quarterback and try to turn the TV on. You go, I better turn it off. And my wife once after her season was over, she goes, "Are we in trouble?" I said, "Yep, we're in trouble. So don't turn the TV on, dear." But yeah, no, it's unbelievable. What I really enjoy about it, maybe more than anything, I don't really know him personally big time, but whenever I've been around him, he is so respectful, so nice, and so, he'll communicate to you big time. And the other thing I always tell people, you can't believe how big he is until you get around him. I mean, he is a big dude.
Yeah.
Long arms, big legs. I'd say he's every bit. As I shrink, as I get older, he looks like he's about 6'4" to me. I think he's 6'3", but man, he's a big guy. And now and it kind of just puts it all together. The throwing, the running, breaking a tackle here and there and all that stuff. When you get around him, you just realize what a special athlete he really is.
I want to ask you a few questions about the New York teams. What do you think of the Aaron Glenn hire for the Jets?
I liked it a lot. I thought maybe they would go with a veteran coach who'd already been a head coach one time. But Aaron Glenn's been around, some of my favorite people, Sean Payton, Bill Parcells, and Dan Campbell. They all have a kind of a intertwined a little bit, especially Sean Payton and Bill Parcells. I mean, I listen to Sean Payton's press conferences sometimes. And what did he say? My quarterback, this and that, but Bo still has a little Ferris Bueller in him, and we got to get rid of that or whatever. That would be Parcells he would say it was great. But him saying that tells you one thing. They are together. They both believe in each other. Denver, Sean Payton, no, they have their starting quarterback for a long time.
Do you think Glenn, as a rookie head coach, would it make sense for him to bring Aaron Rodgers back, or is it make more sense to cut ties and start fresh?
It's a tough question for me. I'm a little bit of each way, but I would say cut ties and let's start fresh. Get another quarterback, change the system, which they have to. I think Aaron Glenn's going to be not like a screamer or yeller, but he's going to hold everybody accountable, which, that's said all the time. They're going to practice differently. It's going to be much harder. The attention to detail will be real. And, I could tell that by his press conference right away. The guys he's been around, they've changed him. There's a great story. I can't even tell it to you because it's not quite, it's a little rough. but it's between Bill Parcells and Aaron Glenn. And I'd heard it, I'd forgotten it years ago. They were standing each other, getting ready to run out of the tunnel at Giant Stadium for Bill Parcells' first game as a Jet. And he turned, I'm trying to I'll keep this, sees Aaron Glenn and said something really negative to him. It was great. I wish I could say it all. And maybe that saying that Aaron Glenn went out and had a great year for Bill. Years together, but that probably bonded them right away.
Yeah.
You know, Bill just said this unbelievable thing to him. Aaron Glenn went, "What the hell was that?" Oh, you know, he was. That would be Bill, and it hit it. And you know why he said it to Aaron Glenn? Because he knew he could.
Right.
Aaron Glenn could handle it. You know, he didn't yell at every player in our football team when we were good for so many years. He knew which guys he could yell at, and it wouldn't hurt their feelings, and they'd go, "Oh, coach doesn't like me." But the ones that he knew could take it, he took advantage of it. Okay? I was effing Sims for 8 years. Effing Sims, oh, you're killing me. Sims, I would throw interceptions. Come to the sideline, Brandon. As I walk the sideline, I'm going, "Oh, this is going to be bad." One time it was after I threw my third in a game, and he looks at me, goes, come here, Sims." I said, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "Ron Earhart's our offensive coordinator. Ron and I just want to know, are you watching the same game we're watching?" And I go, "That's a good one." Walking. It was so bad, he couldn't even yell at me. He just goes, and you know what was great? We came back and won the game. I threw for like 170 yards in the last 2 drives to win the game. So it worked out. Maybe because he didn't yell at me. I was still okay and I could play. But yeah, it's Aaron. So it's all these things I'm saying. It's about Aaron Glenn. I think the Jets have a decent team. You know what's there. Of course, they got to get it to play better, the players that are there, but incorporating other players and all this, I would almost think the Jets need to have a solid year this year. I think they can. They just have enough pieces that are what do you want to call them? Just franchise pieces. They're going to be there for a while. They're all good players. They have enough of those to where they can turn this thing around, I think, pretty quickly.
A big narrative throughout these playoffs with the Eagles specifically has been the Giants letting Saquon Barkley go. What were your thoughts at the time when the Giants decided not to sign Barkley?
I didn't jump into it real deep. I knew it was talked about during the offseason, of course, and when you started hearing all this, and of course I'm not shocked. And of course the Eagles are sitting there going, they're basically sitting there going, well, we'll offer him money where the Giants can't, match it. And, good for the Eagles. I mean, I don't know what to say about their football team. It's loaded. It's the best team in the NFL on paper, no doubt about it. So Saquon, it was true what John Mara said during Hard Knocks. He was the Giants' most favorite player. All the fans loved him and everything. I would run into Saquon every now and then. I go, "Man, Saquon," and I even said to him, "If your career just it finishes well and you guys win a Super Bowl, anything like that, then man, they're going to love you for the rest of your life." And so it didn't work out that way. They love him in Philly, rightly so. And I got to admit, I thought it would work down there, but I didn't think it'd work to the extreme that it has.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be quite this good there. What do you think?
Offensive line in football.
Right. And that's part of it, is just the fact that it's, even as much as it looks bad for the Giants right now, like he wasn't going to have this season that he had with the Eagles in New York if he stayed.
You know what could have been almost easier to say? If he'd have stayed with the Giants, could he have survived the offensive line and all that? And when the year was over, everybody go, "Well, we should have traded Saquon or got rid of him. We paid him. We could have done." So, we're all geniuses after the fact.
Yeah.
So let's Saquon.
How is John Mara as an owner? Like it just for so long, he was, I think, recognized as one of the best owners in the NFL. And the Giants had so much success, but now they've been in this hole for a while. and all of a sudden, and the way he had that answer about Saquon Barkley during Hard Knocks, like it's almost like he's starting to get mocked a little bit with the Giants struggling for as much as they have for as long as they have.
Well, he was right. He said it all. He's our favorite player, this and that. And you can't deny the talent, even with the Giants, even though it turned out to be what they wanted all the time. But when he was healthy, the talent was, you couldn't argue it. The old saying is, I don't know which coach, he goes, do we want a guy that can block, get us a couple yards, doesn't make mistakes? Or do we want the guy, when we give him the ball, he can go 80 yards anytime he touches it? And, of course, that's Saquon. And John Mara is loyal to a fault. He really does, just like his father. They worry more about the fans than they do anything else. They want the fans to get their money's worth, to enjoy what they're seeing, to be part of it and all that. And that was Mr. Mara too. And John is, I don't ever look at him and go, he's the problem.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he kept the general manager and head coach because he doesn't want to be this guy that keeps turning it over. So give him one more chance and see if they can turn this thing around and get us back where you can look at what they're doing and you can look at their talent on the field and how it's displayed and go, we made the right decision. So as we hear so much, another big year for the New York Giants and their organization, no doubt.
What do you think they should do at quarterback? Draft somebody, sign somebody?
They're going to both. I think they'll sign a quarterback. I don't know who it'd be. I can't even give a good guess. But then they're going to draft one with the third pick. There's no doubt about it. I don't even think they have a choice. The only choice they have, maybe they find out they have to move up to number 2 or something like that, or 1. I don't know. That could happen. But if the Giants don't draft a quarterback with that third pick and get probably one of the 2 that everybody's already deemed to be 1 and 2, it's a little early to do that. But what the hell? Let's jump ahead. So it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And if that doesn't happen, oh my gosh, Brandon. Can you imagine being a sports guy here in New York, a writer, radio? Oh, it'll be in there. It'll be like, this is great. It's, you know what I mean? It'd be great because they know they got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I can also imagine what it'll be if it ends up being Shedeur Sanders and just having the whole Deion Sanders factor and everything and how that's going to go for a season.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wondered all the time. And it's, I never thought that Deion was going to go to Dallas and coach with Jerry Jones. My gosh, Jerry nobody would even go around him to be interviewed. They'd always be around Deion, and we can't have that. So, hey, I tell this to people too. Jerry Jones is one of the nicest owners in the NFL, or at least he was to me in our group. He was great. And I'm not going to imitate. I'm pretty good at imitating him, but I won't do it now. But whatever you need, whatever you want, just let us know. We're going to get it done for you. And, Phil, I can't believe we're in the Super Bowl with this team. And he goes, somebody pinch me. And I said, how about, I can't even tell you what I said to that. But, he's great. I mean, I can understand why these players, you don't hear many players down there complaining about the fans, the organization, or anything like that, and the owner, because they get treated great. And that's an understatement. So.
Last thing, how is hosting Sims Complete, hosting that with your son, Matt?
Well, my son, Matt's hosting, I guess you would say. But I like it. We have a little fun, like taking shots at him. He takes them at me. He laughs about everything. Oh, hey, Big Phil. And I really like doing it. I'm proud of it that we're doing some things and hopefully talking about and saying things that educates people a little more. And we have a lot of fun with it. I do like it, like I said. I like the draft too. I notice it. I watch a lot of TV, Brandon, and I listen to all the people in the mornings. I flip through all the stations. I want to hear what they're talking about and see if I agree with it or not. And a lot of times I get great ideas out of watching TV. I go, oh, that is real. And I'll steal stuff, but when I steal it, I give them credit. I go on the podcast sometimes. Dan Orlovsky said this. I tell you what, he's right. Nobody knows this. Why don't they know it? It's true. I'll give them credit. I've never heard anybody give me any credit for one damn thing. And I know some people listen because I know what they know. Okay. Especially in the draft. And then when I say something about a player, especially quarterbacks, then I hear it repeated and I go, they have no idea what that means. So I just go, well, at least they listen. That's good. So, but yeah, I like it. I really do. And then I get my son, Christopher, I watch him. And of course, Mike Florio.
Yep.
I steal things. I go, look, they said this. I'm going to say it. I try to give people, when I steal their stuff, to give them credit for it. And it's a form of flattery, right? I guess.
Yeah.
At least I look at it that way. So, oh, well, yeah, I'm still waiting for just one time somebody say, I heard Phil say this. I'm not going to hold my breath, but oh, well, it's all good. It's all good. I love it. I say this too, Brandon. People go, what do you do during the week? I said, I watch football games. And well, how many? I said, I watch them all. Maybe not to the same degree that, like who would I? Too bad. Like, let's say Jacksonville was playing the Raiders. I'm going to watch the game, but I'm going to watch the whole game in probably 25 minutes. I'm just going to flip through it and go, oh, okay, Max Crosby, he's still killing it. Right? But nobody's going to talk about him. So you just take the teams and the games from what's really important, and you just take it down to the end. You got all the teams that are losing and having terrible years, and you just watch it so you have a little thought about them. But so I tell this to people, and they go, wow, you watch all those games? I go, yeah, I got to watch football games for a living. And they go, oh, yeah, it's pretty good.
Not a bad gig.
Come on, Brandon, but it's a great gig. God dang, could they pay me more money? Sure, I'll take that. But no, it's a great gig and it's fun. It really is. I'm not going to tell you which quarterback I'm looking at right now. I was watching this morning because, the quarterback's always a big deal in the draft. And so I like to be up and informed. And as I watch these players and start judging them, as usual, I go, ooh, I've been wrong about this guy. He's much better than I expected. So that's the cool thing about doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you mentioned Chris. Chris has definitely carved out quite the media career for himself with Florio and NBC. I remember when Chris used to fill in for Boomer sometimes on WFAN.
Right.
Always found him entertaining and interesting to listen to.
Well, we talk, and sometimes we'll talk about a game, and he can literally do 3 games by the time it takes me to do 1, because I've been out of the game long enough, so it takes me longer watching to really understand certain things. And it's amazing. He can tell you about offensive linemen and this guy and that guy. I can't go in the deep depth that he can, but he's young and he's just got a great memory for watching and studying, and he can recite it weeks later. Me, after that week's over, it's wash the board and start over again. So it's pretty cool, though. I'll call him every once in a while, Brandon, when I get stuck. God almighty, what am I going to say? I don't, this crap and whatever. I'll call him and say, I said, that's good. I got enough. That is great. I'm going to take it all. So I do that.
And people do credit Chris. I feel like I see Chris's takes on quarterbacks aggregated all over the place.
Yeah, well, he does. He ranks them and has to do all that and stuff. And we do it too, but we don't get Matt and I don't get the recognition. We did a better job last year on the quarterbacks than Christopher did. So just want to put that out there too.
All right, good stuff. Phil, you were great. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to go out and work out a little and see if I can keep the old man from getting older here today. So we'll see. But thanks for having me on, Brandon.
Of course. Talk. That is Phil Simms. I'm Brandon Contes. This is the Awful Announcing Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to this podcast. Please also subscribe to Awful Announcing's YouTube page. But regardless of how you consume Awful Announcing and the Awful Announcing Podcast, thanks for listening and be good.
Thanks for listening to the Awful Announcing Podcast. For the latest news spanning the sports media landscape and more, check out awfulannouncing.com and follow us at Awful Announcing.